the Yamal Peninsula. This is the Yamal Peninsula in northern Russia, a place locals call the end of the world, where temperatures consistently plunge to around minus 76 degrees Fahrenheit and can reach minus 70 during the harshest winter days. The Yamal Peninsula is home to the nomadic Nenets people, an indigenous community whose population has dwindled to approximately 70,000 individuals. Every autumn, the Nenets migrate southward accompanied by their reindeer herds, before winter fully sets in. They must reach the southernmost and warmest region of the peninsula where they can establish their winter camps. The purpose of this migration is finding a location warm enough to endure the winter season. Failing to complete this journey could result in death from Russia's brutal cold. Since they do not establish permanent villages, they have no sturdy insulated buildings for shelter. Instead, they depend entirely on tents, and surviving the Russian winter by burning wood is an incredibly demanding task for them. A society apart, the Nenets organize themselves into extended family groups. Each family group includes 40 to 50 individuals who migrate together with roughly 200 reindeer. They are essentially operating a traveling community comparable to a small village, complete with animals. Across hundreds of miles of icy terrain, every group has a chosen leader who determines when to move, where to pitch camp, and how to handle their reindeer. Everyone in the community accepts these decisions without debate because they recognize that in their world. Indecision could literally prove fatal. A single mistake regarding timing or direction could leave the entire community stranded in a snowstorm or on breaking ice. Russia's Yamal Peninsula is predominantly inhabited by the Nenets people. The Nenets exist within Russia's boundaries, but they are not ethnically Russian. They are the native people of these frozen lands. Their occupation of this territory stretches back to an era long before Slavic peoples arrived in Russia. Life in the tents. Their everyday existence includes no smartphones, movies, or television programs. They do not pay housing costs or utility bills. They do not hold jobs at companies or maintain a regular work schedule. Instead, they follow their own traditions, not the conventions of modern civilization. They understand only a nomadic existence, traveling from location to location, erecting tents, and performing whatever tasks are necessary to sustain their families. Every tent is constructed by assembling wooden poles together. A standard tent requires approximately 30 poles. These poles are secured together at the peak and extended outward to create a broad circle at the ground. The peak is left partially open, forming an opening for the stove chimney. The framework is then wrapped with at least 2 layers of reindeer skin. A wood-burning stove is positioned inside to supply heat and to cook meals. The heat relies on the fire. When the outdoor temperature is severely cold, the indoor temperature can still decrease if there is insufficient wood, and if the fire dies out, the temperature inside can fall below freezing, even with 2 layers of reindeer hide protecting the tent. Within the tent, although there are no actual walls, the space is organized by unspoken rules. The section opposite the doorway is called the Sai, a holy area designated exclusively for honored men and spiritual objects. A woman crossing over a man's possessions or entering this holy area is regarded as a grave taboo, thought to bring misfortune to the hunter. Their sole connection to the outside world is a radio stored inside the tent. Through this basic device, they attempt to stay informed about what is occurring beyond their isolated environment. No phone, no internet, just a tent and the fire keeping you alive. Could you live like this? Comment yes if you could adapt. No if you couldn't. A diet that breaks all the rules. Their food consists almost exclusively of reindeer and rabbit meat, much of it consumed entirely raw, and they are among the healthiest people on Earth. They consume the meat right away while it remains warm, eating organs, muscle, and fat in ways that would make most individuals ill. They also consume soup made from meat stock. One notable practice is that they eat meat both prepared and raw. When entering a Nenets tent, a visitor will see that raw meat is offered alongside prepared dishes. Like many other communities in Siberia, the Nenets melt snow to obtain clean water. They warm large quantities of snow in containers until it becomes water. This melted snow is then utilized for both preparing food and drinking. Whether this practice is healthy remains debatable, but they have no other option. Existing close to nature does not mean they exist without structure or civilization. The Nenets slice fruit carefully and present it on plates. They consume bread with their meat and also buy biscuits transported from other areas of Russia. They also purchase soap for washing and detergent for cleaning utensils. Tea is another product they buy frequently. The primary difference between their lifestyle and a modern one is that they prefer to reject the conventions of modern society and remain living as nomads. If today's story impressed you, don't forget to drop a like. And if you're watching on your phone, tap the hype button below. We truly appreciate your support. Hygiene habits and clothes. In winter, when rivers and streams freeze solid, the only water source comes from pure snow or ice chunks cut from the river surface. Snow is gathered into large metal containers and warmed for hours over a wood fire. A full container of melted snow produces very little water, so water is always conserved carefully. So the Nenets typically only wash once or twice a week, sometimes even less often if there is powerful wind or a scarcity of firewood. They do not wash on a regular timetable, but wait for days when circumstances are more favorable. Washing is also very brief, mainly involving cleaning the body with just enough warm water, avoiding leaving the body wet for extended periods because water causes heat loss. And instead of laundering clothes, as in warmer climates, they are dried by fire, exposed to the freezing wind, or cleaned by beating with snow. Winter garments typically consisted of 4 to 6 layers, organized in a very precise order. The innermost layer was soft material to keep the skin dry. The next layer was made of reindeer fur positioned inwards to hold heat. The outermost layer was reindeer hide with the fur positioned outwards, offering protection against wind and snow. In extremely cold conditions, they added another heavy layer of leather. Footwear, gloves, and headwear were similarly layered. In these circumstances, keeping the body dry, warm, and preventing energy loss was more critical than any modern idea of hygiene. Women who keep the flame alive. While men oversee the reindeer herds and make movement decisions, women are in charge of maintaining the fire that keeps everyone alive. Every morning, Nenets women rise before anyone else to restart fires that have weakened during the night. If a fire goes out entirely, the tent temperature can fall to lethal levels within hours. These women have acquired an almost mystical ability to interpret fires, understanding exactly when to add fuel, how to regulate airflow, and when a fire is at risk of dying. They can determine by the sound, smell, and color of flames whether the fire will survive through the night or require attention. They are also expert craftspeople, producing and repairing all the clothing that keeps their families alive. They prepare reindeer hides using methods that transform raw animal skin into waterproof, windproof, insulated garments. They understand exactly how to handle different sections of the hide for different uses, producing boots that remain flexible in severe cold, coats that block wind while allowing moisture to escape, and gloves that offer dexterity while retaining warmth. When Kaslani, the final days of the lunar cycle, comes, the women are also the most occupied. Women are in charge of packing and unpacking the entire household, making sure that nothing essential is forgotten while keeping loads light enough for the sleds. They have memorized the position and significance of hundreds of items, from cooking tools to extra clothing to emergency provisions. One missing item could mean disaster for the entire family. Live with the wind, not by the clock. In the everyday lives of the Nenets, the idea of time is not connected to clocks. A day starts when the light, wind, and temperature permit them to safely venture outside. Time is understood by the shifting sky, the sound of the wind on the tundra, and the behavior of their livestock. If it is still dark but the wind is peaceful, they can begin early. If the light is up but the wind shifts direction, all plans for the day can be delayed immediately. There is no set timetable for work. Each day is a continuous sequence of observations and modifications. When the snow is soft, they seize the opportunity to fix their sleds. When the wind is powerful, they remain near their tents to repair hides, tie ropes, and inspect every small detail. The way they transport their belongings also clearly demonstrates this lifestyle. There is no idea of just in case. Every item retained must demonstrate its usefulness on the journey. Anything not utilized frequently is abandoned. Anything damaged beyond repair is not brought. Minimalism here is not an aesthetic preference, but a requirement for survival. Cleaning, arranging, and preparing for the next day occur silently. There are no task lists, only things that must be finished before the weather shifts. Every movement is efficient, conserving energy and time. Transporting fewer items means quicker and safer travel. In this pattern of life, being on time is more significant than being on schedule. The Nenets do not attempt to control time, but learn to merge into it, allowing each day pass in harmony with the tundra, where everything can transform in just a few hours. An economy built on sleds. While they exist without banks, stores, or conventional jobs, the Nenets earn income by producing some of the finest sleds in Russia. These are not simple transportation devices. They are masterpieces of engineering that are in demand throughout the country. Nenets men spend their free time building sleds using methods passed down through generations. Each sled is custom-made for particular purposes, whether it is transporting a family during migration, hauling heavy loads, or providing emergency transportation. They are designed to handle the extreme pressures of Arctic travel while remaining light enough to be pulled by reindeer or humans. The craftsmanship is so exact that these sleds can endure for decades with proper maintenance, making them highly desired by other Arctic peoples and even collectors in urban areas. The money generated from sled sales enables the Nenets to buy essential items they cannot produce themselves: tea, bread, soap, and other manufactured goods. Children learn sled construction from age 6, not through formal schooling, but by working alongside their fathers and grandfathers. By the time they reach their teenage years, they can construct functional sleds and comprehend the engineering principles behind their design. This knowledge transmission ensures that the abilities needed for both survival and income generation persist from one generation to the next. Growing up amidst ice and faith. For Nenets children, childhood is inseparable from nomadic life. They do not grow up in classrooms but in the rhythm of their families and reindeer herds. From a young age, children take part in daily tasks according to their gender and physical condition. Boys accompany the men out into the tundra, learning to observe the snow, tie reins, and gather the herds when the wind shifts direction. Girls remain closer to the tents, assisting the women build fires, process the hides, and care for the younger children. If they want to continue living with their families, learning to survive becomes required. In the extended cold, Nenets children often appear healthy and plump. Their natural layer of fat, combined with the thick reindeer hides wrapped around their bodies, helps them hold heat better than adults. Their cheeks are rosy from the cold wind, and their pale skin stands out against the gray snow. When they are not assisting with work, their joys are simple: running in the snow, playing with sled dogs, slipping and getting up again in the cold wind. Alongside their work, Nenets children are raised within the community's spiritual worldview. They do not practice large, organized religions but maintain a polytheistic belief system dating back thousands of years. All elements of nature, fire, wind, earth, animals, are regarded to possess souls. Shamanic rituals are woven into daily life, not separated into distinct sacred spaces. Children do not stand aside and observe. They witness and take part from an early age, tying strips of cloth to tree branches to send prayers, witnessing animal sacrifices, and eating the meat on the spot as part of the ritual. These rituals are often guided by shamans, who are thought to have the ability to connect humans with the spirit world. When a family member experiences mental distress, a fire is lit at night, and a purification ritual occurs inside the tent. In the flickering firelight, the songs, movements, and rhythms of the rituals blend into daily life, becoming a familiar part of the upbringing of Nenets children. Boarding school and the generation between two worlds. For the Nenets, education does not occur on the tundra. When children reach school age, helicopters land in the open snow and transport them away from their families. From around 6 or 7 years old, many children reside in boarding schools in towns hundreds of kilometers away, where they have heated rooms, a fixed schedule, and the language of instruction is completely Russian. In school, Nenets children learn reading, writing, mathematics, and the skills required to integrate into modern society. But that knowledge does not help them read wind direction, recognize thin ice, or handle reindeer hides. Conversely, survival skills inherited through the family have no place in the classroom. The two systems of knowledge exist side by side but rarely intersect. Living away from their parents for months at a time gradually changes family bonds. When they return to their tents for holidays, some children are no longer comfortable with the nomadic lifestyle. They find sleeping in cold tents, waking up early with the herd, and the absence of amenities unpleasant. Meanwhile, parents worry as they realize their children are no longer skilled in the abilities that were once the foundation of their family's survival. However, not sending their children to school also means closing all doors to the modern world. Illiterate Nenets children will be unable to work in the tundra, communicate with the authorities, or access healthcare and technology. Therefore, education becomes a no-win situation. On the Yamal Peninsula, schooling is not just about literacy. It silently creates a generation caught between two worlds, knowledgeable enough to leave, but carrying with them memories and roots that make completely turning their backs on the tundra difficult. When help is 500 miles away. For the Nenets, a broken bone, serious cut, or illness becomes a life-threatening emergency that must be handled with whatever resources are immediately available. The Nenets have developed a sophisticated system of traditional medicine that combines practical first aid with herbal remedies and emergency procedures. They use animal fat to prevent hypothermia in injured people, create splints from available wood, and use reindeer hide for bandaging. But these are not just primitive treatments. They are carefully developed techniques that can keep someone alive long enough for their body to heal naturally. When traditional treatment is not enough, the only option is evacuation, which presents its own deadly challenges. Moving an injured person across frozen wilderness requires special sleds designed for medical transport. The journey to the nearest medical facility can take days, during which the injured person must be kept warm and stable while traveling over rough terrain and extreme cold. Communication with the outside world is limited to radio contact, and even that depends on weather conditions and battery life. Calling for helicopter rescue is possible but not reliable, as aircraft cannot fly in severe weather and may not be able to land safely in the wilderness. Many times, families must make the agonizing decision to attempt evacuation on their own, or hope that traditional treatments will be enough. What is remarkable is how rarely serious medical emergencies occur among the Nenets. Their lifestyle, diet, and physical conditioning seem to provide natural protection against many health problems that plague modern populations. When injuries do happen, they are usually related to the inherent dangers of their environment rather than the chronic diseases common in developed countries. Laws written in ice and wind. The Nenets have developed a complex set of unwritten rules that govern everything from fire safety to resource sharing. And violation of these rules can mean exile or death. These are not arbitrary traditions. They are survival protocols developed over centuries of trial and error. For example, there are strict rules about fire management because a carelessly tended fire could kill everyone in the tent. There are protocols for food sharing because hoarding resources could doom the entire community during shortages. There are guidelines for behavior during migrations because disrupting the group's coordination could lead to disaster. Enforcement of these rules happens through social pressure and practical consequences rather than formal punishment. Someone who repeatedly endangers others through careless behavior will find themselves excluded from the group, which, in the Arctic, is essentially a death sentence. This creates powerful incentives for cooperation and careful behavior. What is fascinating is how these rules adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining their core purpose of group survival. As climate change alters traditional migration routes, the Nenets modify their protocols while keeping the underlying principles intact. They have created a legal system that is both flexible and absolute, changing with conditions but never compromising on safety. The rules also include spiritual elements that might seem superstitious to outsiders but serve practical purposes. Certain items are considered sacred and forbidden to touch, not because of mystical properties, but because they are essential survival equipment that must be preserved. Taboos against naming dangerous things serve as psychological protection against fear and panic in life-threatening situations. As we reach the end of this journey into one of Earth's most extreme environments, we're left with a profound question. How much longer will the Nenets' way of life endure? The Yamal Peninsula is changing. Climate change is warming the Arctic faster than anywhere else on the planet, melting permafrost, altering migration routes, and disrupting the delicate balance that has sustained the Nenets for millennia. The younger generation, educated in Russian schools, faces an impossible choice between preserving their heritage and adapting to the modern world. Yet the Nenets continue to migrate, following paths carved by their ancestors, guided by knowledge that cannot be found in any textbook. They represent something increasingly rare in our modern age, a people who have chosen to live in harmony with nature rather than conquer it, who measure wealth not in possessions but in resilience, and who understand that survival depends on community rather than individualism. Their story challenges everything we take for granted about civilization, comfort, and progress. They thrive in conditions that would kill most of us within hours, maintain social harmony without police or courts, and raise healthy children without hospitals or schools nearby. They have mastered an existence that seems impossible, yet they've been doing it successfully for thousands of years. Perhaps the most important lesson from the Nenets is this: human beings are far more adaptable, resilient, and capable than modern life allows us to believe. We have traded that remarkable adaptability for convenience, comfort, and safety. Whether that trade was worth it is a question each of us must answer for ourselves. The Nenets remind us that there are still people on this planet who live by rules written not by governments or corporations, but by ice, wind, and the honest demands of survival itself. If this story opened your eyes to a world you never knew existed, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you never miss our explorations into the most extraordinary corners of human existence. Drop a comment below and tell us, could you survive even 1 week living like the Nenets? What part of their lifestyle impressed you most? Or what would be the hardest challenge for you? We read every comment and would love to hear your thoughts. And if you want to dive deeper into extreme survival stories and human resilience, check out the video I've linked on screen now about the most isolated communities on Earth. You'll discover even more incredible examples of how humans adapt to environments that seem completely uninhabitable. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next journey.